In this presentation, we will continue on in our fairly comprehensive problem where we've recorded transactions into the general fund and the government-wide type activities. In the prior presentations, we recorded all the transactions in the general fund and the government-wide activities. Now we're going to take a look at the subsidiary ledgers. We're going to take a look at the subsidiary ledgers for the revenue and for the appropriations, expenditures, and encumbrances. To do this, we're going to do a little bit of formatting here, and so we're going to hide some cells because we want to pick up this information from the general fund and not the government-wide activities. So what I'd like to do is hide some of the columns so that we can have the subsidiary accounts side by side with the government-wide activities. So to hide cells, what we do is we're going to put our cursor on this N, so we see the drop down like so. So we see it drop down like this, not like that, but like this. Not like that, but like this. And then we're going to hold down the left click. We're going to drag over to the right. And we're going to go all the way to W. So we're highlighting to the column W. Then I'm going to let go of the selected area and then right click on that selected area. This is for Windows, hopefully. And then we're going to hide that data. So there we have it. And so now obviously it's hidden. It's not gone. We didn't delete it. Don't delete it. So it's going to go from LMX. That means that there's some letters missing, and that means that it's hidden. To unhide, you just select anything that's in between there. So you select the columns and make sure the hidden ones are in between. Right click and you can unhide them. And so we'll do that later. So then we're going to go back. So now we've got this side by side, and we're going to break out this revenue type of activity. So what we want to do is look at the detail between these two accounts. You'll recall that we did a lot of grouping on these two accounts, and we want to break out the detail now in our subsidiary ledger for the estimated revenue and the revenue. So we're going to do that up top. We're going to say that the categories we have are the taxes, license and permits, intergovernmental, and miscellaneous. We're going to say that we have the starting of the budget amount. The amount that we budget, that's going to be the estimated amount. The estimated amount we said was equal to, if we scroll back over, the budgeted amount is for the taxes was this amount here. And we can do that all the way down. We can say, all right, well, what's the budgeted amount for the license and permits? That's going to be equal to, scrolling back over, this amount. What's the budgeted amount for the intergovernmental? Well, we broke that out. The budgeted amount is going to be equal to, scrolling back over, this amount. And then finally for the miscellaneous, how about that one? What's the budgeted amount for the miscellaneous? Well, we'll see it's going to be equal to that final number that was in that same column we've been taking a look at, which is the 71.9. If we add them up, then the total should add up to this total here. So let's do that. So I'm going to go down here to our total. We're going to do our sum equals the SUM sum function. Adding these up, don't worry about the letters that won't mess it up. Don't worry. And there it is. So there's the 2,865,800. That should match this number here as it does. So we're looking good. Then we had the actual revenues. We had actual revenues that happened. So let's go through those. If we don't know where these numbers are coming from, we could say, okay, well, what makes up this revenue account? And we can kind of follow it back. You can double click on it, which will highlight the cell, or you can use these arrows, which is pretty nice. And you can go to the formulas up top to find them. And they're going to be this tracing. I'm not sure which one of these, but I have them up here. So, and I'm going to say, click to that one, and it's going to say that's what's in there. So we know what's in there. That's in there. And that's in there. So we got to break those out somehow. And then we got to say, well, where does this come from? And so we're going to say, where does that come from? Let's trace that back. And so they're saying that comes from here. And that is coming from here. So we can trace that all the way back around. That's where we're going to pick up our number. So I'm going to go here in the revenue side. I'm going to put on the next line down. I'm going to scroll back over. And we are, in essence, picking up this cell, and then I'm going to subtract out the allowance. So the revenue, remember, was the net between the two. This was the amount they're going to pay us, and then minus the allowance amount. So that's going to be this 202.1. And again, you could see that here. That's the revenue account right there. And so if we scroll back over, now I want to make it negative to make the revenue credits in essence. So to do that, I'm going to put a negative in front of it and then put brackets around it. You need the brackets because otherwise it's going to be a negative number minus a negative number. And so we need negative and then brackets, which is taking the whole thing like times -1. So there we have it. And then we'll do the balance, which is just going to be the sum equals the sum of these items. And then the second one's just going to be equal to the prior balance plus the current activity, the sum of these items, close up the brackets, and there we have it. So we're at that 4,000 difference between the budget versus actual. And this is going to be, we can call this actual, or let's just call it revenues. So that's going to be the actual revenue. So now we need the revenues for the license and permits. And so I'm going to say this is going to be what actually happened. And you'll recall this is going to be in those items down below in the second revenue activity. So I'm going to scroll back down. It's going to be picked up from this item down here and enter. And again, if we didn't know where it was, we'd have to say, okay, here's revenue. Where did that come from? Well, we already looked at this number up top. So now we're looking at this number. Where did that come from? And we could say it's probably going to be up here. Oh, that came from these items. And now we're going to break it out between the components of these three items. All right, and once again, we're going to make the revenue negative. So now I'm going to make that a negative. I'm going to double click on it and put a negative in front of it. And then we can do our same balancing. So sum of this, and this equals the prior plus the sum of these. And there we have it. And close it up. So close it up, Excel, please. And then there's the revenue. And then we're going to say close up the brackets is what I'm telling. That's what I mean. And so this is going to be negative. And we're going to scroll back over to those items, scrolling back down. And we're going to pick up the 4099 and enter. And do the same type of balancing act here. This equals the sum of these. This equals the prior balance plus the sum of these. And there we have it. Close it up, please, Excel. And the brackets, please close the brackets. And then equals, I'll show you what they mean. I'll close the brackets this time. This equals, and we'll scroll back over, scroll back down. And we want to pick up the last one, which is the 75.9. And this is going to be the actual revenues. Once again, we'll do our balancing act. So everybody likes the balancing act. We're going to say this plus the sum. And if we don't want Excel to kind of yell at us with that thing, we're going to close up the brackets. So shift 0. And there we go. Now, if you don't do a shift 0 and you just leave this open, then it's going to say, do you want me to close it, basically? And we're going to say, yes, please close it up. So now we can sum up these items, the revenue. And there we have it. And that should add up to the revenue there. So that looks good. And then if we take the sum of the difference, that's going to take the difference between these two. There we have it, 5,000, which is the difference between these two, budget versus actual. Now we're going to do the subledger for the appropriations, the expenditures, and the encumbrances. To do that, let's hide these cells now so we can have this side by side once again. So we're going to put our cursor up here on the X so it doesn't look like that, but like that, not like that, but like that, not like that, but like that. And then left click and drag over to AB. Let go, highlight the selected area, and hide those. Don't delete it, but hide them. So now we've got from M all the way over to AC, which means we're over the alphabet and then at AC. I'm going to undo the yellow here because now we want to concentrate on the appropriations, which is this item. So we're looking there. We want to break out the detail of this item. We want to break out the detail of the expenditures, which are these items, and the encumbrances, these items. So we're going to break out the detail. So we're going to scroll back up top, and we're going to pick up, we're going to do the same kind of categorizing type of information. We've got the governmental activity, the public safety, the public works. The first thing we did was the appropriations. So note we have up top the encumbrances, expenditures, and then the appropriations. First thing we did was the appropriation. Let's pick those up first. So we're going to go to the appropriations up top, and we're going to put it as a negative. So I'm going to make it a negative because I want to make it a credit because the appropriations have the credit balance. Scrolling back over, and we're going to pick up the 4898 for the general government, enter, and then I'm going to just say this equals the same amount. Going to scroll back down. We'll do the same for the public safety in AI 17 negative. Scrolling to the left, and we're going to scroll back up. We want the public safety under the appropriations. That's the 9043. The balance is going to be the same. Then we'll scroll back down to the public works in the appropriations negative. Scrolling to the left, scrolling back up. We want to pick up the public works under the appropriations. So that's 668,100. And the balance is going to be the same. Scrolling back down, we've got the health and welfare under the appropriations, health and welfare negative. Scrolling to the left, scrolling up. And then we want under the appropriations, health and welfare, the 618,9 and enter. And then the balance is the same. Scrolling down to the miscellaneous, we are then in AI 42 negative. Scrolling to the left, scrolling up. We want to pick up under the appropriations, the miscellaneous, and enter. And there we have it, and the balance is going to be the same. Then I'm going to total these up and see if it matches. So we're going to be in AI 47 equals the sum of these items. And don't worry about the words, shouldn't throw us off. We're at 2,776,100. Scrolling over, scrolling back up, 2,776,100. So that looks like we are good to go on those items. Now we'll record the encumbrances. So you'll recall we have the encumbrances and then the expenditures. The encumbrances go up and then down. So let's do all the encumbrances first. So we're going to go to the encumbrances, scroll to the left. This is going to be a debit. Scrolling down, these are where the encumbrances are. We had the governmental, the 67,100, and enter. And then we could say, well, the balance is going to be, that's where the balance is. So I'm just going to sum up the balance. And then for public safety encumbrance, we're going to say this is equal to, scrolling back over, looking for the encumbrances. That's going to be this item, and enter. And then the balance will be the same, equals the sum of those. And then we have the public works. We want to be in the encumbrances, public works equals, scrolling to the left. We're going to be in the public works for the encumbrances, the 4012, and enter. And the balance is going to be the same, equals the sum of these items. And then we have the health and welfare. So we're in health and welfare encumbrances, left, up, and we're going to be right underneath that 401 that we had last time. Health and welfare, and enter. And then we'll sum this up, equals the sum of these items. And then we have the miscellaneous. So we want to be on the debit side, miscellaneous encumbrances. And we're going to scroll back up, and not that far. And the miscellaneous, and enter. And then we'll sum up the balance there, equals the sum of these items. Now then the encumbrance went down, so well, let's sum this up. We'll equal the sum of the activity, see if it ties out. It's a good practice to do. And that's at the 976,510. So if we scroll back up, we're going to say, all right, that's at the 976,510, so that looks good. Now we had the encumbrances go down and then we paid off the expenses. So these two are not going to be the same, the encumbrances decreasing and the expenses, but we had to have the related decrease in the encumbrances. So I'm going to do that with a negative. So I'm going to go to the encumbrances here and I'm going to say negative to put a credit. And actually, I'm going to put it down one because this is another item. So we had the invoices approved are going to be down here. Negative, scrolling back over, scrolling back down. And those are going to be these items. So we're going to reduce the estimate, and then we record the actual and the expenditure. So we're picking up the estimate, reducing the encumbrance now. So we're going to say this item. And again, if we didn't know where this was in the data, we could go to the encumbrances for year 2 and say, where's this coming from? It's coming from here. That's where it increased. and then it decreased here. Where's this coming from? There. Where's this coming from? It's coming from these items down here. So that's where we're picking our data up. So scrolling back up, we're going to say, all right, now we're going to be in public safety. We want to be in this item says invoices for the order. And we're going to say, actually, we want to be in the bottom item, invoices approved. I'm going to say negative and scroll back over. We're on public safety, scroll back down. So we want public safety. So this is the item we're looking for, and enter. So there we have that. And then we're going to go into public works. We want the invoices approved. So I'm going to say negative for the credit. Scroll back over, scroll back down. And we want to pick up the public works, was it? And I hope 366, and enter. So we were on public works. And then the next item, we want to be on health and welfare. So I'm going to say negative, scroll back over, scroll back down. And we are on health and welfare. So we'll pick up that item, enter. And then the next item is miscellaneous. So here we are in AE 45, negative, scrolling to the left, scrolling down, and we'll pick up the miscellaneous and enter. So then we could sum this up. So equals the sum, check this out, see if we did it correctly. Equals the sum of these items. And we're at the 8962. So scrolling back over, 8962 looks correct. Now, those are the only two items that are going to happen here within the encumbrances. So then we could go through this and complete the balance, even though we have this middle column. So it's going to be equal to the one above it plus the sum of the activity below it. There's no activity here, but I just want to keep the balance going down. So it equals the one above it plus the sum of the activity below it. And I'll close up the brackets. So let's do that again. We'll go down here. It's going to be equal to the prior balance plus the sum of this activity. Nothing's there. The reason I do that is to get the balance there. Also, we could copy it down. So if I autofill down, it'll take the relative references. So it did that. And then that. So let's do that again down here. We're going to say it equals the one above it plus the sum. This is a common type of thing we have to do. A very useful formula, running balance, sometimes called, plus the sum of these items. And then we'll do that again down here. I'll copy it this time, equals the one above it plus the sum of these items. And now I'm going to copy it down, auto-filling it down, copy or paste it down, that'll work too. There it is. And then we'll say equals the one above it plus the sum of these items. And then I can copy that down. And so there we have it, and it went down to 0. Okay, so now we can record the next activity. So now we're going to go to the expenditures. We got to get the detail there. So if we scroll back over, we're looking at the expenditures. We're picking up year 2. So if I see what's in year 2 expenditures, we've got these items, this item, and this item in the expenditures. Where's this coming from? We could say, okay, that comes from this item here. Remember, this was one that didn't have the encumbrance in it. So this was an item that it was without the encumbrance. We're going to call it payroll. So we'll pick up those first. So that's going to be these items in the expenditures. When we had the cost during the year, we're going to call it payroll. So they didn't go through the encumbrance item. And so we're going to pick up those. I'm going to say, let's go all the way to the top and pick up this line item, And we want to be in the expenditures under the cost for payroll. So that equals, and it's going to be a debit, so we're just going to say equals. Scrolling down, we want the governmental, enter. And then we'll scroll back down. We want the public safety, so we want the cost for payroll, expenditure equals, scrolling to the left, scrolling back down. We're going to pick up the public safety, enter. Then we're going to go down to the public works. We want to be on this line item, costs during the year, payroll, and AG 28 equals to the left, down, and we're on public works, I believe. Enter, I hope. Yeah, that looks good. Next item, we're on cost for payroll. We're on the expenses debit equals. We want health and welfare. Scrolling back over, health and welfare, enter. And finally, we'll go down to the miscellaneous, where we're on the payroll. And we're going to say this equals, scroll to the left, and we want the miscellaneous. There we have it. We could sum this up now and give it a check. We're going to say equals the sum of these columns. And see if that checks out. That's at the 1787. So that looks good at the 1787. We could put the totals in thus far. So as of this point, the balance is what it is. It's just going to be this number is the balance too. So the balance we could just pull over. I'm just going to scroll down. Oh, I should have gone all the way up. I'm just pulling over the balance in the expenses column at that point. So we'll just pull over the balance like so. And here. And then, okay, so now we're going to post the other expenditure item that happened. If we go back over here, we'll recall that the expenditures were here, and we had this item, and then we have this item. Let's scroll back up and trace this down again. So we've got the expenditures. I'm going to say that they're coming from here, and we have this item we'll have to deal with, and then this item is going to be the major other area. Where does that come from? That's going to be down here. So now we're on the actual. So the actual, not the estimate. We reversed the encumbrance with the estimate. Now we're going to record the actual, which is in the expenditures. So we'll scroll back up and say, all right, the actuals here on the invoices. So we've got the invoice that was approved. We're going to be on the debit side. So the invoice approved, debit side. However, I'm not up to the top here. So I'm going to scroll up. We want to be up here. I'm in AG 12. So we're in the general government. We're going to say this equals, scrolling to the left, scrolling down, and we're going to pick up the actual column, the 61.7, and enter. So there we have it. I'm going to scroll down to the next one. Again, I'm in the invoices approved. This is the one I'm concentrated on. Equals, we're going to scroll to the left. We're going to scroll down, and we're on the public safety, enter. So there we have that. Now we're going to go to public works. We're on the invoices, and we're in the expenditures, equals, going to the left, scrolling down. We're looking for public works. There it is, enter. So there we have that, and now we're in the health and welfare, and the expenditures, equals, scrolling left, scrolling down, health and welfare, and enter. And then finally, we're in the miscellaneous under the expenditures, under the invoices approved, equals, scrolling to the left, scrolling down. We're going to pick up the miscellaneous, and there we have it. Now, the last bit of business we have up here is in the public safety, and that's where we had that funny 560 due to the prior year encumbrances rolling over. So we're going to pick that up here now so that we can even that out. So in the public safety invoices for items ordered, we're in the expenditures, and this is going to be equal to, we're going to scroll to the left and scroll down, and we want to pick up that 560. So we're going to pick up the 560, and there we have that. Okay, so now we can take our balances all the way down. So I'm going to scroll back up, and we're going to take our balances, our running balances. So same kind of concept, a little bit easier than under the encumbrances. We're just going to say it's the item above it plus the one to the left of it. There we have it, running balance for the expenditures. Can do the same thing here, equals the item above it plus the one to the left of it. Enter. You could copy this one down instead of writing it in there again. Above it, left of it. And then scroll down. We're going to keep doing this all the way down. This equals the one above it plus the one to the left of it. And enter. scrolling back down. This one equals the one above it plus the one to the left of it, and enter. Scrolling back down, and this one equals the one above it plus the one to the left of it, and enter. So there we have that activity. And then finally, we can do a similar process for the running balance for the total. And this is going to be totaling them all up now, netting out the appropriations and the encumbrances and expenditures. So this one's going to be a little bit more tricky. I'm in AJ 10. This is going to be the one above it plus the sum of, and I'm going to pick up the activity, these two accounts. I'm going to close the bracket, shift 0, plus the activity, which is AJ column, and enter. So I'll do it again, equals the one above it, and you could copy it down at this point, plus the sum, but we'll type it back in just to practice. These two, close up the brackets, plus the activity, this item, and enter. This equals the one above it, plus the sum of these two, close the brackets, plus the activity column, and enter. So now we'll just continue this all the way down. So we're going to say this equals the one above it plus the sum of the encumbrance activity, close the brackets, plus the activity in the expenditure, and enter. And then we could copy that down. So I'm going to autofill that down. And there we have that. I'm going to do the same thing down here. We could double check it if you could click on any one of these to double check it. And then we're going to go back down, same thing here, equals the one above it plus the sum of the activity in the encumbrance, close it up, plus the activity in the expenditure. Put our cursor back on it, autofill it down, double check. Looks like it does what we want, and enter. Next item equals the one above it plus the sum of the encumbrances, close up the brackets, plus the expenditure, and enter. Cursor back on it, autofill it back down, check it. Looks like it does what we want. Last one equals the one above it plus the sum of the activity in the encumbrances, close it up, plus the activity in the expenditures, and enter. Put a cursor back on it, autofill it back down, and there we have it. Now we can calculate our balances here. We can say this equals the sum of the items to the left, and that'll give us our total. This will equal the item to the right, and then we could do our same calculation for the totals. The sum of the activity here, so these two, close up the brackets, plus the activity here on the expenditures, plus the appropriations. Got to pick up the appropriate and enter. So there we have it. Now we could double check these by saying, all right, let's double check it. And we should also be equal to the last balance in our running balance. So last that plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this. And we should be able to check that if I copy that to all the balance areas. This balancing for the expenditures, we can basically double check our balances there. Then we could double check this to the trial balance and see, well, okay, well, what's on the trial balance? Well, let's say the trial balance for the encumbrances, we said was equal to this 80,003. So that's the same. So this minus this is 0. That's our check. And then the expenditures, if we scroll up to the expenditures, we're going to say that that is going to be this item on the trial balance. And if we subtract those out, they look good. And so that's going to be our totals there. And then on the appropriations, we're going to say this equals, and if we scroll back up to the appropriations, we're going to pick up this item. And again, if we subtract those out, looks like it ties out to the trial balance. So the trial balance, so then again, these are breaking out the detail, the subsidiary ledger breaking out the detail of the accounts that are summed up as one lump number on the trial balance.